Hi, this is Steve from the Working Class Bowhunters podcast, here to talk to you about alcoholism and why it should never happen to you. Just don't ever let it happen to you. Thank you. Here we are at the 1600 Buckslayer Place in Sherrard, Illinois, at the Buckatorium, live via podcast, however that works, and via Parts Unknown in Wisconsin. We'll get into that a little later, guys. Still not winded because I've changed my diet.
There you go, Steve.
But there it is.
You're drinking a Yingling beer.
You look better.
I know I do. I've been drinking a gallon of water, guys.
Ooh. Well, we're episode. I'm proud of you, Steve.
I didn't say the episode because I forgot which one.
Episode 15.
Is it 15?
Yep.
15.
We're getting the ball rolling.
We are a quarter after.
That's right.
If you're talking time.
We're three of the four of us are here. Logan, once again, is MIA. This dude is working overtime again. But sorry
this
for him.
guy works his face off, man.
Yeah, he does. But it's too bad for him because we got someone really cool on the podcast this week.
That we do.
It is Jared Scheffler from Whitetail Adrenaline. What's up, man?
Ooh.
How you guys doing?
I thought he hung up.
He hung up already.
He was out already.
Hey, I got a good question. Did you guys say that you're drinking Yingling beer?
Yingling,
Yes,
yeah.
We are.
Okay, all right, because we can't get that here, and it's kind of funny because I just cracked the last one out of my fridge. That's exactly.
You are not drinking the England.
No, I'm not kidding. The last we were at a show a couple months ago in Ohio.
That's
and that's like the cutoff line or whatever for us.
Yeah, Ohio's the closest place you can get it. That's where I got it from.
Did we just become
that's where you got
best
it from?
friends?
I'm taking my first sip of this beer ever right now. I'm not even kidding.
Okay. I've got this black and tan. That's what I've got in my hand.
The black and tan is good.
They didn't have any more lager left.
That's what we're
That's
drinking.
we got the lager.
I'm drinking the lager.
Well, we
right
bought
now.
what they had.
Awesome. What a coincidence. See, from looking at Whitetail Adrenaline, and if you guys don't know, you should know because these guys are balls to the wall. It's as real as it gets, man. And, you know, we watch your videos. And
We're watching one right now, actually.
yeah, we actually have one playing in the Buckatorium. I was on your website, you know, just seeing what everyone's, like, profession is. They're all working-class guys.
Correct.
So
Yep.
it goes hand in hand. Welcome to our podcast.
He's just like us, you know, go to their everyday job.
Right. I mean, we got everything from, Shea Peterson, he's a roofer. Alpine, he's an iron worker. Jim, he's a land surveyor. Scott, he works at a sporting goods store. Just, all just regular kind of, guys with regular full-time jobs. None of them are pursuing, this is like a profession.
Yeah.
They're pursuing their own careers in different avenues, and they just enjoy hunting. And so that's kind of what we like to capture with Whitetail Adrenaline. It's everyday common guys and their experiences and struggles and things they go through, everything from the highs and lows and all that.
Now, with everybody's profession here, did you guys realize that if you all got together and put your heads together for anything other than hunting, you could make, like, sports fields? You got the land surveyor, sports merch, roof, ironwork.
I must have lost you there. Do what now?
Dude, I lost myself halfway through. I shouldn't have even said that. I don't know.
That's most people's reaction to anything Steve
beer.
says.
No,
Usually Steve's just going in his own world.
Yeah, sorry about that. It happens.
I kind of
No,
pre-warned him
that's
last night about you on the podcast. Yeah, Steve will take you places where you're kind of unsure whatever the hell he's talking about.
Okay. I'll try and hang in there. That just maybe Steve's just he's on a different level.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, don't be talking above my pay grade again. All right.
Well, the thing is, with your guys' setup, I think that's where you guys are more appealing, and I think to everyone, basically everyone who hunts, because not everyone gets private land. You guys are public land, sponsor-free. It's just, I don't know. You guys go after it. That's appealing. People want to watch that stuff. You don't always want to watch so-and-so, whoever, on whatever channel hunting at this ranch where you know what the outcome is going to be typically. That they're going to get on a big deer, and you kind of know that's how it's going to end up.
Right. And not to take anything away from, private land hunting or anything like that. Most people don't know this, but I walked away from I had two private farms in, central Buffalo County, Wisconsin. Very good, farms and acreage, and I didn't have to pay anything to hunt there. But it just, for me, it just kind of lost its mystery and adventure. And I did grow up in a family, or in an area in a very strong family of hunters, and a lot of the hunting we did was public land, or we just knew a lot of farmers and could pretty much go wherever, almost treat it like it was public land. They let a lot of other people hunt too. So, after I was, 18, 19 years old or somewhere around there, I got a couple opportunities to hunt, like some of this, more elite private acreage, in Buffalo County. And, I did that for, 5 seasons, and I was almost getting burnt out a little bit on hunting to some degree. And I think it was just, don't get me wrong, I love chasing big bucks, but I think I was too soaked, that was it for hunting for me. It wasn't so much the mystery of what deer anymore. I kind of knew a lot of those details. So it wasn't as adventurous, or I don't know, maybe if I grew up hunting that, it would be different, but maybe for me, I just noticed I was kind of starting to get burnt out, and I started exploring. There was a couple season period there where I really started exploring, what was causing that. And part of it was how I hunted. I had become a very stationary type hunter and whatnot. And I'm mobile all the time, and I love being on the ground. And
well, I think most people are stationary type hunters. You know what I mean? I think that's you're kind of just taught to sit and wait, and not really go. I don't know. I guess what's appealing for you guys, especially with your promos and stuff you put out, you guys are stalking deer, and I think a lot of people see that and they're like, "Oh man, that's cool." Because in Illinois and in the Midwest, anywhere in the Midwest, Wisconsin even, it's really rare when you see a buck up somewhere and you can go and you make a stalk on them, or you're just, you know what I mean? Not a lot of people just go for it like that.
Correct. Yeah, and we deal in it with numbers. It might take, it might take 3 stalks before we actually connect. It might take 10. We don't worry so much about whether we're going to bust that deer or spook that deer. And I think here again, because we're hunting public land, we can do that a little bit more. Let's say you had 40 acres. Well, if you hunted like how we hunt on the ground on your 40 acres throughout the season, well, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of deer left by the end of it hanging out there. So it's a very effective method on public land, and not just from that standpoint, but also, there's a lot of public land acres that isn't worth what we view as it's not worth our time to hunt. Whether there's too many hunters or whatever, but hunting on the ground allows us to get in and out of places a lot quicker and basically wean through, less productive acreage and areas and spots. Whereas, when we first started out with the public land videos, we were still doing quite a bit of hunting out of the tree stands. But what we found was, we might go into a new piece of public land, set up the stands in a spot that looks good, trying to read the sign and everything. And, okay, maybe we didn't see a whole lot. Well, the next time we went out, maybe that's the next day, or if they're in our local state, the next weekend, we might go in a little bit further and investigate a little bit further. Well, pretty soon we got 3-4 sessions into this one piece of public to maybe find out that this is all nighttime activity and not worth our time. So now, on the ground, we just kind of go in there, and a lot of times we'll know in a matter of a couple hours whether this is worth our time or not. We don't worry too much about busting deer.
Yeah. That's a good method. I mean, you got to kind of go in and see what's up, really.
Go in and feel it out.
And the thing I noticed too, in a lot of your videos, I mean, it is about, it's more about the hunt. It's not about just sitting and waiting, and you're chasing these deer, and you film the misses too. Like there's tons of misses, and it's like, 'cause
that's what hunting is.
That's what hunting is.
Correct.
And now the thing I was getting, I would see some bucks, and you guys are like, that's not a shooter. I'm like, dude, that's a public land deer. You nail it, man. And you guys just you guys would pass up some deer that I thought, I would shoot. I mean, I would shoot it, 6 times a week, twice on Sunday.
Well, and don't get me wrong. Every one of those deer, we'd probably shoot in the right circumstances, in the right we basically our standards drop depending on how the hunt and how we feel.
It does
going,
for most people too, which I think it's people can relate.
Right. So just because we say he's not a shooter, it's just he's not a shooter right now. Maybe in 2 days we'll reconsider, or maybe
when the pressure's on.
For instance.
So in this moment, it's not like give him a couple years. It's let's see what else it is. It's kind of like if you're trying to pick up girls at a bar. It's like she's not a keeper, but last call comes around. It's like okay, she's definitely going to do it.
Sure.
What a good way to put that.
That's
Steve.
a good way to put it. I guess.
You have a way with
true?
words,
Dude,
my
come on,
friend.
man. You don't want to walk into the bar like it's opening day and just be like, dude, there it is. I'm taking that one. Boom.
Right.
7:30 and you're already
boring.
tagged out. Yeah. I mean, not to say you can't,
You gotta have a little chase and a little failure rate in there too.
Exactly.
Otherwise, if you didn't get shot down enough, then it wouldn't be.
That's right.
It wouldn't be as much fun.
You got to go to
me,
the 10s
never.
where you shoot for the 4s.
Never. Well, dude, you shoot a 4, you can come back for that 10, maybe. I mean,
I get shot down plenty, so I got no problem with that.
Are you not married?
No.
No.
Well, why not?
He's too busy
Not
hunting.
married, and I've managed to stay pretty single most of my life. So.
Pretty single.
That's
Pretty
actually
single.
probably not a bad deal. Hey, man, you have a successful hunting show out
you
of it.
You know what? I'm okay with it. Like I just hit 30 here a few months ago, but honestly, like I'm just so I love just kind of doing my own thing, and not to say that I won't ever get married or whatever, but
Hey, man, I'm telling you right now, we have a lot of listeners that go, this guy's living the dream.
Yeah.
Living the dream.
right.
These guys
Well,
are like,
it's a double-edged sword, and of course the grass is always greener on the other side. So, but I think for a person that stays super active, like I'm gone a lot or gone to shows or hunting in the fall or whatever, it doesn't affect me as much. If I was just working 40 hours a week and sitting around had nothing else to do, I'd probably feel like I should be settling down and have a girlfriend and get married or whatever. You know what I mean?
I can't wait to hear those nuptials. Hey, I had nothing else to do, so I figured we get married, toots.
Yeah. Good idea. Seems like the in thing. Give it the 90s.
Oh, my God.
Oh, man.
I love it.
So when you started to Whitetail Adrenaline, was the whole idea behind it? Well, basically, okay, question, how did it start? What was your goals in mind, and did you always plan on going public land sponsor free? If that might be a lot of questions in one, but just
sure. Well, I'll try and make it as short as possible here. For a long time, I just kind of filmed stuff, for fun here and there, with the idea in the back of my head that maybe someday I wanted to do a video or a show or whatever. And I worked at a furniture factory, just a night shift, regular type of unskilled labor work. I only got a high school diploma kind of thing. And basically what happened is my cousin Jim and I, we decided, let's just go out this fall. Let's film everything just as is, whatever happens. And just kind of go from there. So we filmed in 2007. That was our first, footage that we decided, we cut for the videos. Anyways, we went out, filmed it all, and then the footage just kind of sat there until late March. I actually lost my job at work. And literally I drove from work after I lost my job to home, and I remember I sat at that computer for 16 hours straight, never got up for a drink of water or anything, and that's pretty much the start of when I started editing that first video. And so it took me about 40 days to completely edit and get that video cut and out the door, which is probably the shortest I've ever done it in, but we also had a lot less content to go through.
So did you make a DVD out of that, or how did that all work?
Yep. We made a DVD out of that. So that was our first video. That was there was some public land in there. The rest was all by permission.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an all public from there, my cousin Jim and I, we talked about it. We both grew up kind of, like I said, hunting public land. And it was like, you know what, nobody else is putting out a yearly type of, like all public land exclusive. And, there's more adventure. Let's just give it a whirl and see, and we did it the next fall. Didn't get as great as the results. In fact, it's nowhere near the results we get or have gotten the last, handful of years.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's kind of an adjustment period in there. We went from hunting more private ground where we weren't, very aggressive, and we were kind of playing the tree stand game a little bit more. Not that that's not effective or whatnot, but when you're going out of state to new places maybe you've never been before, well, it might take you more than 3, 4, or 5 days to find the right exact perfect set, and so hunting on the ground just kind of, here again, allows you to get through a lot more acres a lot quicker and figure out, where you need to be.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot faster.
Well,
so that was kind of like transition throughout the, like you can see that progression throughout the video series, us getting more and more aggressive. So go ahead.
So when you start pumping out videos and you're doing the film, and then as this is going along, are you thinking, let's just do it on our own? No sponsor funding, no product. Is that just something you kind of got into it and then you're like, yeah, I don't need it? Or is it something you're like, I kind of want to prove a point here, sponsor free, check it out, this is what we're doing. You know what I mean?
Yep, you're right. And we've never done a single, sponsorship with the company or anything. From the very get-go, when Jim and I just said, let's just go out and film and have fun with it this fall and whatever, there was no, interest in doing any sponsorships at that point. Between that first video and second video we cut, there was talk about it and there was thought about it. Maybe, seeing if the right sponsors, we just didn't want to water it down with, it wasn't really about proving a point. It was just, we felt like it would take away from the authenticity of what the everyday common hunter actually goes through, or what, the everyday common hunter doesn't
Absolutely.
get.
And I think people can respect that.
Product and that stuff. Yeah. So, it might be taken by some people as, they're trying to prove a point, or same thing as the public land thing. But truth be told, I absolutely love hunting public land, and I absolutely love, that we've been able to, keep the whole production sponsor free too.
So for our listeners, would you suggest to quit your job, hunt public land, and film it? Is that what we can take away?
That's what he's saying.
Well,
it's worked for him, right?
I'm not gonna say don't give it a whirl if somebody's heart and soul is set on it. But I do think that even I think any other producer in the hunting industry will be the first to tell you, it's not a 40-hour a week kind of job, and you get to do a decent amount of hunting and be out there in the fall, but there's a lot of extra legwork and other things that you sacrifice along the way to make it. There was a lot of times, the first few years of the videos, I lived in we called it the dungeon. A buddy of mine, we rented this basement, and it was $200 a month, everything included.
Oh, that's a deal.
It's a deal until you're there.
Until you're there.
And I remember, maybe 1 out of 4 times, I'd eat spaghetti all the time because it was cheap. You could get the great value stuff for 72 cents a pound. Now I think it's $1, but literally, most of the time I ate spaghetti, the sauce was too much. That's, you just kind of go through, that's the you have to make sacrifices. And at that point, in the business and everything, I was dead broke throughout so much of, the last couple of years have been really good years for us.
Mm-hmm.
Those first few years, there's a lot of struggling and a lot of scraping by and wondering if it's worth it. And
so basically right now, because since you guys don't get sponsorship money or anything like that, all your funds are coming from product
DVDs.
Sales, right? DVDs,
correct,
merch.
Correct.
So
it's all, the entire thing is funded by, people actually purchasing the DVDs and the apparel. That's how we're able to kind of offset the costs. And we also try and keep the production costs down. You know, we don't have we've got really nice video equipment, you know, but we aren't spending $100,000 a year in camera equipment and software and computers and you know, everything that goes into the edit. And you know, the other thing is since I cut and edit all the footage, or have up until this point. Now my buddy John just showed up here a couple of years ago. He's going to give me a hand with some of it. But you know, being an editor to edit content, that's a very expensive, you know, cost as well. So we've basically been able to, you know, keep those costs a lot lower, and that's also helped to be able to keep it sponsor free as well.
And so, are we going to see a Lamborghini here pulling up on private land? You know, putting a deer on top of it, maybe 2 deer, anytime soon?
What's that?
Are we going to see a Lamborghini out there driving around, scoping out deer on public land?
Won't be seeing any of those.
They're keeping it to the same.
You might see like a 1988 Econoline or something.
There you go. You
no Lamborghinis. What's that?
Well, what I was gonna say is I actually, where I heard about you, I've known of you guys for a few years. I met you a long time ago and bought some DVDs a couple of years ago at the Illinois Deer Classic. I believe Illinois or Iowa. I think it was Illinois.
Yeah, do you remember?
Okay.
I'm trying. Yeah, so he doesn't remember. But I talked to you for a bit, and I was like, oh, man, I'm going to grab some of these DVDs. And because it's appealing. Public land, sponsor free. You kind of just want to see what it's all about if you've never heard of it before.
Right.
It's just, I think it's a great thing you got going on. It's just real, man. It's like real. It's like almost the true definition of like reality TV.
Sure.
Which I think a lot of people, like I said before, can relate to that. I mean, for most people, that's kind of like what they have to do because it's so hard nowadays to get private land. I mean, you can't. No one can really buy it because it's so dang expensive. Right, yeah. It's so hard to get permission to hunt properties now, where public land is what a lot of people have to do to get out there. So,
or like you said, you know, if you're on private land, that guy lets everyone and their brother hunt it. So you got 15 dudes running around.
Yeah, on 15 acres.
You're right.
Oh, a guy an acre. Make something happen.
Well, and the other thing too is one of the other side things that we talked about and thought about is, you know, I mean, with the direction, like you say, land's so expensive and everything. We also, you know, like this idea of giving a little bit of, I don't want to say inspiration, but kind of inspiration to people out there. You know, there's a lot of people that view public land hunting like that's all I got, like it's a bad thing or whatnot. And I mean, for myself, for sure, it's a choice. You know,
yeah.
I can hunt more private ground than I'd ever know what to do with now after doing the videos. Like I hit offers all the time. I mean, I've had people that, you know, I've got a 200-inch deer on my land or whatnot. And,
yeah,
you know, to me, I just know that whether it's a 200-inch deer or not, you know, it would kind of take away a little bit of just going out there and doing it yourself and kind of figuring it out. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's one of those things where we kind of liked it as it's hunting seems to be becoming a little bit more of, you know, it's got this illusion to the outsider a little bit too, that it's really expensive to kind of get in and, you know, get results. But we also, you know, try and keep the video fun to where, you know, there isn't so much focus on just the deer size or just the deer. There's just go out there and have a good time, you know, so that way, you know, it's really easy to turn on TV and see a 180-inch deer get shot. And if you're hunting public land, I feel like if that's your only reason for hunting is for that, well, you're going to get pretty depressed pretty quick. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yep.
And I hunted public land here in Iowa last season. I moved to Iowa, but I'm back at my parents' house, so, you know, back to Illinois. Here's what I noticed about when you go to like different places. Like if there's a place that's right off the highway, you're gonna find stuff like tires, condoms, cigarette packs, beer cans, and then you get into some place that's a little bit more tucked back, and not a lot of people go there, and it's, you know, I don't have you had any experiences like that? Like, all right, here, forget what I said. What's the weirdest thing you found out on public land? I guess is the question I want to ask.
The weirdest encounter or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's probably a few of them. Well, I know there's a few of them, but I'll just start with a couple of them. Is one of the more bizarre ones I ever seen was I was hunting in Nebraska a few years ago, and I came across one of those elevated tower stands.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on Army Corps engineer land, which is open for anybody else to hunt, and it was way back in, and I was like, how did this person get this thing way out here? It's pretty common to see, hang on tree stands and ladder stands and stuff like that, but not stands like that. And I've seen some pretty elaborate stand setups, so that seems a little bit bizarre when you come across those. I know that there's some awful goofy experiences that are just not coming and popping into my head right now, that it's like, what the heck was that? But I can't really think of them off the top of my head right now.
It's one of the things that, you're walking around, you're just trying to get a feel for the land, and you walk by a tree stand, it's only 6-8 feet up, off the ground. I mean, it's not too high up, and it's just kind of odd looking, and sometimes they have hornets' nests in them, and it's just.
What about it? Because, on public land, anyone could really be out there. Just as an example, one of my buddies last year hunted an in-town hunt in Davenport, Iowa. I don't know if you're familiar with Davenport. And he shot me a text message. He's like, man, you'll never believe what I just saw in the woods. He said it was just getting daylight. A couple came into the woods, did their dirty. This is in town, a little it was the in-town hunt. Did the dirty and walked out. And he was filming for a small show at the time. So this guy is up in this tree with camera equipment all around him.
Oh, good Lord.
And I said, please tell me you didn't. He's like, no. He's like, it was too dark. He's like, but they would have definitely shit themselves. They would found out there was a guy in a tree with a camera 50 yards away.
I bet they would have.
They had no idea.
I'm a tree stand voyeur. Oh, boy, this is my lucky day.
Yeah, no doubt.
You got to be careful with that, too, because, if they're just, some high school kids, it's like, oh, I can't.
He said it was an older couple, too, so I was like,
right.
Really?
You got to keep that adventure in your life, I guess.
Yeah.
But have you ever had any sort of, on public land, because, I was saying, you can run into anyone, sort of a shady encounter, or you're kind of like, ooh, man, I don't know about this guy, or just a rough situation, or good or bad, if you could.
I have ran into a few. There's in Wisconsin. There's some kind of there's some program lands, and they're actually private owned, but they'll get a tax break from the.
Okay, I've heard about that because my dad was researching that
Yeah.
because he's from Wisconsin.
And
It's like CP.
they're very. There's no signs up or anything. You really have to do your research. They're really hard to kind of figure out unless you really do a lot of research and figure out all the details to basically map it out. Well, we've dealt with some very unique situations on those. Probably, nothing ever got too crazy. I did have a guy one time give me a pretty good shove, and wanted to know where the other guys were. And of course, as soon as he saw the camera, he got out of there because they are held accountable. For they're not obviously, if they enroll in that program, they can get fined pretty heavy for harassing people to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not totally forces them into it. They sign up for it. It's basically they kind of want their they want their cake and they want to eat it too. They want to save all this money. And then they want to, BS people, and they know what they're getting into, and then they want to BS people that it's no longer in it, or we got too many guys, or whatever. Well, none of that applies. They want to think that it does, but
they're
it
basically
doesn't. And so
they're a landlord,
right. When you calmly explain, and explain it to them and try and do it in a manner that's, professional and diplomatic. Well, some of them are all right. I've had guys. During gun season, and I walk right up to them and blaze orange, and they're the owner, and they completely understand and get it and aren't upset about it. And then you run into guys, and those are always, kind of relieving when you come across ones like that. It's like, finally, you get somebody that actually, has in this program, and they understand, like, yeah, I signed up for it, I get the break, this is part of the deal, and then you get other ones that are, we had one guy one time that just threw an absolute fit, and we ended up just deciding not to go there, or at least that night, and we heard all kinds of rumors that basically it was one of those deals where it was like, you know what, we're just going to cut our losses on this, and we never went back, because there was kind of a little bit of threats that kind of came through the grapevine, and it just was going to turn into a big messy kind of deal, and it was like, this isn't why we hunt public land, And although that isn't technically like public land, when we say public land, it's an easy way, public access, land anybody else can legally hunt. That's what we, but for us to explain that in 2 sentences, you know what I mean? It can just kind of get confusing. So I guess public land isn't always necessarily the correct technical terminology, but it is land anybody else can legally hunt.
Yeah, so. For sure. And then while we're kind of on that topic real quick, I mean, if you don't want to spend too much time on it, I don't blame you. How many times do you think you've been, well, I'll put it this way, had a bullet or an arrow whiz past you? Because I seen on the highlight and on a couple of your DVDs, you guys are like, oh man, there's shooting.
You can hear bullets whizzing by you guys.
Yeah. Courtesy of my cousin.
Keeping the family, I guess.
Doesn't that sound like something out of a movie?
So instead of punching you in the face,
what's that?
At me.
So instead of punching you in the face, he
shoot at you.
Okay,
he's lobbing
lead
lead
just send a
at you.
270 short mag whizzing right by. That'll get his attention.
Oh man.
That's really the only time. I've never had like a stray arrow or anything like that, anywhere close to me. And, I can't ever think of another time where I've had, bullets even close to me. I've come across a lot of people who have, but nothing quite like that. I mean, that was.
I've done it, and that's the scariest
I didn't really
thing.
feel too threatened because, we were over top of that hill and everything. But you never know. I mean, a bullet could.
It's still coming your direction.
Yeah.
Right. It's still coming our direction. It could do a multitude of things. But, I
used to hunt.
It was a little bit. It made the hair stand on the back of my neck. But I kind of take life in this. What, if I'm not dead yet, I'll just. I was laughing before the shots even ceased. I think, like, are you kidding me? Like, at first I was like, holy crap, and then I was like, all right, we're not dead, and I think we're all right, so time to start laughing about it, But I definitely don't want to be in that situation again.
For sure.
But you were in it, Eric.
Yeah, I used to gun hunt. We'd always push and have sitters, and when you'd sit, you'd hear the shot, and then all of a sudden you hear this, you hear a slug whizzing by it, and you're like, oh, time to jump behind a tree.
No, you go from sit to lay real quick.
Yeah.
You hit the dirt,
For the first time, the first shot, you're just like, what the heck was that? And then you kind of hear the sound of the gun go off. Yeah. You kind of hear that boom.
See, I've never had that experience before. I've never.
See, yeah, sometimes too, you'll hear the bullet whiz by and then the gun go off, and you're like, holy crap, what was that? You're like, I got to hit the dirt.
Yeah.
See,
the bullet will be there long before the sound. I mean, we filmed some stuff this year where one camera was on Jim when he was shooting, and he was probably 500-600 yards away. And I was just cutting this footage the other day, and you can see the smoke come out of his gun barrel from that camera 600 yards away or right around there. And it is just over 2 seconds before the sound comes through.
Wow.
The time that, that bullet's long there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I got to ask you this real quick. Either currently or before Whitetail Adrenaline was a thing, who was in the hunting industry, who was basically your main inspiration as far as just hunting personality or shows or anything like that?
I think I probably, that would have been about 10, 11, 12 years ago, probably right in there. That was kind of right when Realtree Road Trips, that show came on, and that was quite a change of pace from their normal show. So I kind of liked some of that show, and it kind of just having a good time or whatever. And of course, Michael, he's a great entertainment.
Yeah.
And then I really also liked the actual film production quality and different things that Pat Reeves did and has done over the years. He's got some incredible, he's very talented.
Yeah, yeah.
And actually, I met up with him a couple of times in my early years, and he gave me some different pointers and different advice before then. So outside of that, I don't have any off the top of my head. So those were the kind of like the two, I guess, kind of shows and individuals that I guess I kind of liked what they, I guess
what they were
format
putting out.
Yeah, and what's cool because I can kind of relate to you because I have a rather large hunting DVD collection, and I think what turned me on to like the hunting industry type of deal was the Realtree Road Trips production as well. So
it kind of brought fun back into it, I think, a little bit, or at least at that time in the industry.
Well, it kind of brought in a new generation of hunting show, for kind of what we have now. It kind of is the evolution of what we have as a hunting show today,
Right.
Correct.
Because, there's a lot of hunting shows that try to, give you that behind-the-scenes feel, and, which is awesome. There's a lot of camaraderie in hunting, and it's cool when you get to experience that through a DVD. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
Or a Blu-ray.
Right.
Or a Blu-ray, whatever. It's a Blu-ray.
Yeah, are you guys coming out with Blu-rays anytime
Hey,
soon?
there again, you're doing that thing where we don't have Blu-ray. Come on, we're DVD. Come on,
Dude, you know how cheap Blu-ray players
we
are?
actually, for years we've actually filmed everything, and I've edited everything that we could, throw it on a Blu-ray disc. In fact, I throw our trailer videos on a Blu-ray disc for like playing at shows and stuff. But I can count on one hand the number of people that have ever asked me for a Blu-ray disc, and so.
What about VHS?
Yeah. Where's your VHS production?
Yeah, I still have one of those.
I
That's
think
cheap
about
as hell.
4 or 5 years ago I had a request or two for them.
Did you remind them what year it was?
I'm still working on getting that out, actually.
Yeah, you might want to just throw that in the trash
No,
bin.
you need to bring back the VHS, I think.
Here's the thing, I'll let you know.
Believe it or not, DVD sounds so 1990, but so many people I hear take our videos to deer camps and things like that, and the simplicity of, how easy it is to just pull a DVD out and throw it in.
Oh, yeah.
It's still there. We sell more DVDs today than we ever have, and not to say that online digital formats that'll probably be a pretty big way of the future here over the next 5 years. But as silly as DVDs sound, or whatever, but they're still simple. You throw them in, hit play, it works.
Well, yeah, when I bought those DVDs from you at the show a couple of years ago, I think I bought.
It didn't work.
No, I bought.
Yeah, money back guarantee. I got what I needed out of these.
I bought 2 of them for a real reasonable price. It was kind of like the show was where I heard of you guys. That was my first impression, and I was like, oh, all right, yeah, I'll rent 2 DVDs for that price. I can't remember what the price was, but I remember I was working a part-time job then because I was still in high school, and I said, all right, yeah, I can afford that, and we're watching one right now. It was only a couple of years. I've only been out of high school for a handful of years now.
Yeah, no, we're young pups yet.
So, but
They're still working.
It's like if you guys are listening, you're like, go order them. You know what I mean? That's not. Some DVDs are. You can spend $25. I think last DVD I bought was $28 for a Grand Slam DVD or whatever it was. Good DVD, but it's $30 for one.
Sure.
You can get a bundle, or you know what I mean. It's just.
I know a place you can get a bunch of used DVDs. They're kind of filthy, but
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, at least on our website, we don't have a used DVD section.
Well, this is a completely different format.
Steve's talking about the adult bookstore or something like
Oh,
that.
I got you.
No, I was talking about Baby Einstein.
Yeah, give me a break.
Whatever.
Oh,
Like
man.
Baby got back.
So
Einstein.
I got a question for you. What, out of every state you've all hunted, what's your favorite to hunt public ground on? if you have one.
That's probably a toss-up between Iowa and Kansas.
Yeah.
That's what we like to hear. I'm an Iowa boy myself, so.
As far as, all around, let's put it this way. I wouldn't want to only hunt Kansas open plain, grasslands like we hunt. It's fun because it's a change of entirely different type of terrain and everything, but it does get a little bit boring. It's flat grassland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
They can
and then,
see it coming from
Iowa
10 miles
has
away.
Iowa has some great, hilly, wooded terrain and of course a good, good amount of quality deer, decent quality deer there.
Good couple of people who are on a good podcast too, right?
What's that?
Good couple of people who are on a good podcast too, right?
I'm
still technically an Iowa resident for the next 30 days.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
I personally live in Iowa, and I've hunted public ground too. We got this giant out there. We hunted them all muzzleloader, and we could not get around this deer, man. It was insane.
What would Burlington? Eric hunts it's in Burlington, right? The ammunition plant.
The ammunition plant down there.
Which I'm sorry, this is rubbing salt in Eric's wounds right now. He didn't draw for the Burlington ammunition plant.
I didn't draw a bow. I
you
drew late muzzleloader, so that should be all right.
You can kill a buck there if you haven't killed one already.
For where?
Burlington.
For what state?
Iowa.
Iowa? I thought that was Iowa. Isn't the draw, you're saying for this year?
Yes.
Or last year?
This year.
Oh, okay. I thought the draw, that's a resident draw, I bet, huh?
Well, this is explain that situation.
It's like so you apply for it. It's owned by the government. It's an ammunition plant, and you sign up. You draw. Only residents of Iowa can do it. And you get your name thrown in a hat for.
I gotcha.
For bow, for turkey, for shotgun, whatever.
Top secret resident stuff there.
Right.
Yeah, correct. I'm technically the only Illinois boy in the Buckatorium right now.
Yeah, I'm in between.
So I'm out. We're out in Sherrard. I guarantee you've never heard of it, but you will have heard that Luke Bryan hunts just over the yonder here in Matherville.
Yeah, I feel like I have heard of it, but whatever. We'll just say that I haven't. So.
He's like, I know that place all too well.
Yeah.
No, but when you come down to Illinois, you got to come hang out with us now, right? Since we're drinking the same beer.
Yeah, for sure. I can bring the beer.
All right.
All right. We can.
I can bring the beer if you got a place to crash.
Hey.
Well, you bring the beer. We'll talk about it.
All right. If you're going to make me pitch a tent, then.
Well, here's the thing. The reason why Steve's
I'm bringing whiskey.
Yeah, I need to sleep.
Well, since Steve moved back in with his parents, I actually have a house, so.
Oh yeah, rub it in. Yeah, that's real nice.
Or if you're in Iowa,
rub
I
my
always got a
bad
place
luck
to
in front of our guest.
Well, you said we didn't know if you had a place to stay. I'm like, yo. I mean, if you want to pitch a tent in my yard and get drunk off whiskey, I'm down to do that with you. I mean,
we'll party, man.
Both of you guys sleep in the tent. I have a house.
Is it any place in the yard we can pitch a tent?
Oh yeah.
I got a big yard with an archery lane. We could figure something out.
Oh yeah.
We might want to do archery before we do the whiskey, but I mean, I'm down for whatever as long as we film it. Oh,
good deal.
That's getting weird. Where we go?
We're going to some place that's not weird. Mainly, it was weird because I wasn't invited to sleep in the tent with you guys. So
I never said we were sleeping in the same tent.
Well, no, kind of feel left out. So let's move on.
Oh man,
we do. We saw you posted it yesterday, and we've got some listener, viewer, fans.
You want to rock that out real quick? That way we can get to it. And
you want me to figure that out? We've got some people that wanted to ask a couple questions that are aware of what we do. Does that work out a little better?
Yeah. We'll do these because there's a good handful, so it's easy to get through while we have time.
I'll see if I can answer them. No guarantees.
Okay, just give it your best shot. Crack open another beer. We'll see where we're going here. Shannon Doc Tucker, he says, got a couple questions for you on the podcast. The big questions are, Jared, are you shooting flint nap points, and what date are you bringing Doc up from the south to hunt with you?
No, I'm not actually. A good old Doc down there in Tennessee, I think. Yeah, Tennessee's where he's at. I do have Flint Knapp's heads, but I haven't hunted with them yet. I've got them ready to go on some shafts, but I maybe want to do that. I want to shoot one deer with just a straight raw, like old school arrow. Probably just one, and then that's it. It's going to be a one and done
kind of. Just say you did it.
Should be like prehistoric school, like a sharpened rock.
I'm on the same page on that because I think that stuff's cool, man. I really want to get a recurve, and I just want to say I killed a deer with a recurve.
It's pretty darn cool when you do it. I missed, of course, the first 4 that I shot at, but when it happens, it just happens so fast, and so I don't know. It just seems so like you're. It's like you can't even consciously play back hardly how it happens.
Is it kind of like the biggest reality check? Like, oh man, like. You know what I mean? With a compound or a gun, you can just do it. And then when you get with this like primitive style like weaponry, you're like, holy crap, hunting is hard. Like, I mean, it's hard anyway. It's a challenge. But when you get that type of equipment, and it just handicaps you so much comparing. You
shouldn't have really gotten me going on this because I'm pretty darn hooked on it. And I just shoot a straight longbow. That's kind of what I prefer. But a lot of people might view them like they're a harder weapon to shoot than the recurve. I actually think that they're more forgiving and easier. Myself, easier to make mistakes and still get the arrow where you want it.
You're saying a longbow over a recurve?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. I do shoot a pretty short longbow though. And I shoot one with what's called a reflex deflex limb design, which transfers a little bit more energy through, throughout the draw cycle, and it just delivers that arrow with a little bit more force than your typical like straight limb design longbow. One thing I love about it, especially from hunting on the ground, is how your body can be in so many different types of positions. You can be sitting on your butt, you can be crouching. All kinds of different ways. You can shoot the bow horizontal or canted or just about pretty much straight vertical. You can draw back. Pretty much how I shoot is I draw back and I let go all in one motion. Like I don't really even stop.
Okay.
And so hunting on the ground, once it's kind of one of these things where there's this like there's a complex period where you kind of go through. And then once you really get shooting that weapon to where it's an extension of you, it almost feels like the weapon you feel the most deadly with, out to a certain range, of course. Like obviously your compounds have your advantages, the further out you go. But as far as like inside of 20 yards, I'd much rather have a longbow than a compound. Especially if I've got a 5-year-old deer there. Yeah. Oh yeah, because on the ground like that, a 5-year-old deer, you might a 2 or 3-year-old buck might, see you and tolerate and give you 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds to, maybe somehow get your compound drawn back or whatever and settle in, and there's a little bit more of a systemized, process with shooting the compound. Nothing to take away because compounds have. Taking a lot of deer, but
but plus once you get back to deer camp, everyone's like, oh look, I shot this 152-inch, slob. Look how fat his body is. I mean, but then you're like, yeah, but look what I shot with, sorry, we have a cat in here. You're like, look what I shot with a stick and some string. It's like I think you get a little bit more bragging rights when you can, kill a deer with that, especially in the modern ages. Everybody's shooting, because the technology keeps getting better and better, and it technically makes it easier to shoot. But I mean, this is such a basic, tool to use, and it's, like you said, not a lot of people are using this,
right?
I think it just kind of gets you bragging points. I mean, that's me. I mean, I'd gloat if I tied my shoe by myself, but, you know.
Sure.
Well, the thing is... Sorry, go ahead.
No, okay. I mean, the thing about it is it's, like I was saying, it's actually a simpler weapon once you get it kind of down. You know what I mean? I've had things go wrong when shooting my compound setups. You know, not too often out in the field. It doesn't happen very often. But, you know, everything from, you know, a mechanical blade popping off when I have a giant buck walking in and now he goes through my gap. Well, I'd never be shooting a mechanical head on a longbow. I mean, that's kind of a thing there where I could make a choice to shoot a fixed blade at a compound as well. But, you know, I've seen, you know, not with myself, but, you know, all the deer that I miss with a compound, I'm pretty sure the bow is hitting where it was supposed to. I just blew the shot. But I, you know, I was with a buddy one time and you know, his bow, he hit a deer high and we shot that bow and it shot 10, 12 inches high. Something moved. I don't know if this peep got caught in a little piece of brush. That didn't really make sense because it's a lot of pressure to be able to, like, move that. Somehow that bow ended up being 10, 12 inches high. You know, things like that, you know, well, with my stick and string, you know, it's basically up to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I blow the shot, if the arrow doesn't go where it's supposed to,
you can't
there's
blame
probably
your
not.
bow.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot I can blame it on.
Well, you know, when you were saying, you know, if you're on a 5.5-year-old and you're at whatever 15 yards and you did the stock on them, it actually, a lot of people wouldn't think, but what you said is kind of eye-opening. It's like, well, you know, that does make a lot more sense because with the compound, you draw, you anchor, you settle your pin, you're holding for a minute. Then, I don't know, you might try and stop him if he's moving, and then you release the arrow, and then he ducks your arrow or whatever. With that, you're saying you just pull back and shoot in one fluid motion, and that's...
So the deer's really only seeing that motion, you know, not the motion.
If it sees it at all. I mean, and that's how I shoot. The cool thing about a longbow, especially a longbow, is you can kind of develop your own style and own rhythm to shooting. You know, you go back hundreds of years and all these different cultures and all these different, you know, areas of the world, they almost all shot a little bit differently. You know, some would draw and hold, some would draw past, you know, some would anchor. I shoot a lot of times with a floating anchor point. You know, a lot of people might not think that's a good way to do it, but in a hunting situation, you know, kind of, so I don't really have a true set of an anchor point, which, you know, could come in handy in a hunting situation. But yeah, I mean, essentially I can draw back and shoot, and the arrows from the time I start drawing to the time it probably hits the deer at 15 yards it's probably around a second, you know.
See, that's amazing because I feel like
with a compound, I might be at full draw, settled in. Like you can draw a longbow probably twice as fast as you can draw a compound because there's no valley and you're not trying to draw it necessarily super, like, you know, super silky and grace. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, I feel like a lot of people that shoot compounds all the time just think, oh, my bow's sighted and I don't need to shoot. Whereas with like traditional equipment, yeah, you need to shoot. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, you gotta, like, you couldn't just grab that bow and go out and kill a deer. Like, you have obviously learned the bow. You've practiced with it enough to where you say, I can do this. And it's just, that's why it's a different game. That's why no one really hunts with them. You know,
well, I practiced with it a lot, maybe not enough. I missed one last year. So.
Well, that's like us. We shot that my recurve couple weeks ago, and we were hitting the shed, and
yeah, that was our first go at it, though.
Yeah, it was our very first time, and we were way off. You know,
and I wouldn't judge it on that alone. I mean, and the other thing too is, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been on this little longbow kick here for a few minutes, but you know, and I absolutely love the longbow and whatnot. But you know, the compound's definitely a great weapon in a lot of situations, and for a tree stand shooter or somebody that's got a really concealed, you know, position on deer where they're going to have that time to maybe draw an anchor, or they've got pre-cut lanes and things like that. Well, you know, most of the time the compound's probably going to have the advantage, you know.
Yeah.
But if you're trouncing around the woods on the ground and you got a camera guy behind you and you don't have pre-cut lanes and things like that, and all of a sudden you get a big bucky inside of 20 yards, well, there's a pretty good chance he's probably going to get you a peg. And if you don't have it, if you don't get your compound drawn without him seeing you, the bigger the deer, the less chance, or the older the deer, the more chance he's probably not going to tolerate it long enough for you to maybe get the shot off, or you might find yourself rushing the shot or whatever. So every situation is different, though. Since taking up the longbow, there's been deer where I'm like, would have got that deer probably most likely with a compound. And I didn't with a longbow. And then I've had, I shot the biggest buck I've ever shot in my life last year, and I don't think I ever even got the shot off with a compound. So, it goes back and forth. Every situation is different,
Right.
Let me hit you with, we're going to do another listener question here. Cole Mountain Sitzinger? I don't know how to say it. What a name. That's a hard one.
This guy's a pro wrestler, too.
What is the most heartbreaking experience you can recall hunting whitetails?
The most heartbreaking, that would probably go to, there's a couple of them, of course. I get a lot of them, but there's a couple that really rank up there. Is probably the number one most heartbreaking was, I had this buck a few years ago, and he had extremely tall brow tines. He had probably somewhere between 25 and 30 inches just on two brow tines. Between the two, So, anyways, I had seen this deer the year before. Not that I followed specific deer. It's just I probably would have never even realized it was the same deer. He had these ginormous brow tines, So So I when I saw him, I knew right away, hey, that's that one that we saw on the last day last year, whatever. He was big 10-pointer or whatever. So it took about 5 hours. He was on a doe and he was on public, and when we had seen him the year before, he was on private. But it took about 5 hours, and this buck was with this doe, and finally we couldn't really sneak in on him. We finally bedded down with this doe, and when we were about 150 yards out and whatnot, and so I crept up there, and he was in these tall weeds, and I got up to where I was, within 30 yards I knew of him, and all of a sudden I was glassing into the weeds, and all of a sudden I saw him in the weeds. He was like 22 yards away. And I got my buddy up there that was running the camera, and I was like, just, like he couldn't see him. You couldn't see this deer with the naked eye. I was like, just zoom in right over there, and then we just got to get a quick clip of footage, and then we got to get down,
Yeah.
And somewhere in there, I don't know if him or his doe caught something through those weeds, and I didn't really think that it was going to happen. Like, I didn't really think that would happen.
Yeah.
He was pretty covered up, but somehow one of them saw us, and I realized what was going on right away, and I already had an arrow on, and I kind of let fly just as he was like getting up and totally missed, and it was just kind of a heartbreaker because we had been on him for 5 hours, and brow tines are just
brow tines for days.
Man,
and it was I've seen thousands of bucks in my life, and I see there's big bucks that we see and film in the fall, and I forget all about until we cut footage. I mean, we see a lot of big bucks, but I've never seen one with brow tines like that. So, to have them on public, to be 22 yards away, and after, being on them for 5 hours, and for the opportunity and crawling along and all that, and then you get that close and you got him right in your lap, and you're like, we would have never had to try and get this clip of him laying there. I could have just been like, all right, get down, and when he comes, like, we had it all laid out. He would have came right out if I would have grunted. He would have come out. He'd been coming out running these bucks all day, like basically the DNR had, there was these like 6-foot weeds and whatnot. He was laying in a row that was about 25 yards wide, and the DNR had cut him like a haybine in a hayfield, had cut the weeds, and so he had been coming out to the edge, running bucks off all day, and all we would have had to do was get down and give a little like toot on the grunt tube or a snort weed, but he would have popped right out of the weeds to see what who's moving in on him.
What's worse that gets you on that is the shoulda, woulda, coulda type of thing.
Yeah,
It happens to everyone.
In one of your videos there was there was this. I mean, obviously, you guys get really close to bucks. I mean, there was one you guys shot in the neck at 9 yards, like walking up, and it didn't even see you. But it was actually that same. It's dropping the hammer, which we actually have right now.
Yep.
You're walking, and there's this buck that gets into the cattails, and you know, you're like you're trying to walk around it. You're like, okay, he's bedded down in here. And you decide to take a certain route, and you know, all of a sudden it stands up and it takes off, and it's 10 yards from where you guys were. So you almost would have stepped on it. I mean, does that happen more frequently than you would think? You know, you almost stepping on deer.
The reason that deer hadn't busted yet, what happened is, here again, we had spotted that deer over a mile away, got out there on foot, and we're kind of referencing different things, and then we'd spotted him again, and then we did a bunch of crawling, and in that time, you know, it would have been very easy for him to slip out of there. We got up there, and I mean, the cattails were really short. They weren't much taller than knee-high. They were super short, you know, for cattails. And the only reason he hadn't jumped yet is because maybe the video footage maybe there wasn't a clip that really showed it. I can't remember, but it was right on the edge of where the cattail started with this really short, like, grass that was super quiet. So he never heard us walking up there. That's why we got that close. Well, we got up there, and I was like, God, I thought he was right here. And I'm looking all around, and I cannot see him anywheres. And I'm like, you know, then it clicked in my head. I'm like, I bet while we were crawling, you know, I bet he got out of here. You know, and I'm kind of looking around some more, like, and then for some stupid reason, I drew the bow and just, like, walked in when I should have just drew the bow and, like, you know, gave a little toot or something on the. You kind of just, you know, I was like, all of a sudden I was just like, you know, I was pretty much convinced in my head, like, yeah, he's gone. But I suppose I better draw the bow and, you know, make a little noise or what. Well, I did that, and of course he comes popping out, and here I'd walked right by him, and I had no idea how we didn't see that deer. I mean, I'd spent a few minutes looking, like, right there, and he'd been within 10 yards and knee-high cattails, and I have no idea.
They're
To
amazing
this day,
animals,
I don't know,
man.
you
How
know,
they can
but
blend in.
I had a really scary situation, kind of like that. I was, I was walking into the stand. This is a couple years ago, and I'm like, just kind of, you know, it's still pretty dark out. Like, I can't really see that well because there was like a full moon, so it was kind of in between the trees. I get there, it gets a little dark, and I start, like, walking down this path, and just all of a sudden there's this commotion, and I see something get really dark, and it was whoosh right in front of me, probably like about 1.5 feet, and I just happened to look and see a tail. I mean, I don't know if it was a buck or a doe, but it ran within 1 foot in front of me. Like, I guess I must have spooked it, and it took off.
You wonder why you were able to get that close and you weren't even knowing. Like,
it was kind of scary. So when I saw that, I was like, you know, I was like, man, that's weird because that kind of happened to me too. You know, I figured it would have heard me coming. You know, because it was probably a good 150 feet in. I mean, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Eric, what other questions do we have? We'll knock these out real quick.
We have a question from listener Derek Halberg.
He's like a super active listener. He's always on our.
He's our fanboy.
Yeah.
He asked, how about any spot and stalk tips? Walking silent, staying still when being stared down. Any tips? You know, any tricks you got?
Okay, can you just say that once more? It kind of cut out for a quick second, and man, sorry.
That's all right. Said, how about any spot and stalk tips? Walking silent or staying still while being stared down by a deer.
Okay, well, if one's here's the best advice I can give. If one's looking at you, just don't move, no matter how long it takes.
Don't start doing the Macarena.
No, but I mean that's funny, but it's serious. I mean,
yeah.
Many times we have, you know, it's even been a big buck sometimes, or it could be just a doe too sometimes. But many times, you know, when we're sneaking along or whatever, we'll have a deer that, like, snaps its head up, looks right at us, and several times we've convinced them that we're nothing at all just by freezing and not moving.
Mm-hmm.
But usually what happens is, unless you've done this a lot, usually what happens is that deer will stare at you for a couple minutes. You know, what happened there is it saw something out of the corner of its eye, and it snapped its head, kind of like when you see something out of the corner of your eye, and then you look, and then you're like, maybe I didn't see anything at all. It's kind of like that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you just got to convince that deer that you're nothing at all. And several times, I mean, this happens several times every season. We'll have a deer that does that. It snaps its head, looks, stares at us. You know, we freeze. It drops its head down, you know, pretending like it's not looking. It's every time, every deer pretty much does this. It'll stare at you, then it'll put its head down to pretend like it's not looking,
But it's
try
still
and get
looking
you to
at
move.
Right.
Yep, it's still looking, and then it'll snap its head up all of a sudden, and you just kind of go through the game with them and convince them that they're.
That's
they're
actually a
not
really
all
good tip, because most people wouldn't think that, you know, after it's looked away, they think it looked away. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know, that's a good point to bring up, because it's just
right.
the body language of them. That's just something they
well,
do.
and after 5, let's say once this happens all the time, after 5 minutes of it staring at you, you're probably getting pretty sore because it probably caught you in a spot that's not too natural, and your muscles are getting kind of like a little bit weak. You know?
I know this all too well.
Yeah,
Been there, done
and
that.
what happens is this thing looks away, and you're like, oh, finally, you know, and then that's when you move, and that's when it's tricking you. And it's, you know,
That's the point where it catches
that's
you.
when.
I've had that happen to me more times than I can count. And normally it's like what you said, you're uncomfortable, and for some reason I always get a shoulder cramp, and I'm like, "Argh." Or you ever have a buck sneak? I mean, mostly I'm hunting out of a tree stand. I see a buck sneak in on me, and I'm like, all right, okay, he's right here. I don't know how I didn't see him coming in, and I have to reach my arm around all like in a funky position. And I go to grab my bow hanging on the hook, and then my shoulder cramps because I've been sitting still for 5 hours. And then he sees me move, and then I'm stuck in that position like you're saying, but I'm in a tree, and I'm going, okay, he's staring at me. All right, 5 minutes later, he looks down, and I'm going, and I grab my bow, and then he sees me, and then he's gone.
Takes off.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, like, because there's a difference between sitting in a tree stand and doing what you do. Sitting isn't that hard to do, but what you guys do, I mean, do you work out?
Do we what?
Like, do you work out, like, to keep up for the, like,
no.
I'm not just asking if you work out. Like, don't take that the wrong way. But
no,
like,
the same guy who wants to sleep in a tent with you.
Depends on what you define as working out. If it's running a keyboard and a mouse and lifting a beer, well then, yeah, I guess we do kind of work out.
We're all in the same shape then.
You work out like we do.
Well, I have these good intentions, of working out. I even got a little bit, I got a few weights and whatnot, and periodically I'll go for a run or whatever. But
sure.
But that's been more recent. In the past, I definitely haven't worked out.
Well, because I get
whatnot, but.
I get winded doing the intro to this show. Like, you were like, we stalked him for a mile. I was like, dude, I would have given up after 7 steps. That's just way too far to be on 2 feet and not 4 wheels.
The majority of the time, Steve's hunts are unsuccessful.
Hey, he walked that way, and that was it.
The majority of our hunts are unsuccessful, too, I guess from the standpoint of whether we filled the tag or not.
Yeah, the majority of everyone's hunts are unsuccessful, I believe.
Dude, I would have the worst DVDs. It's just like, all right, hey, I was going to go hunting, but I got a bag of potato chips instead, so, not doing that today.
Your DVD would be The Winded Hunter. That would...
Where are these deer? Dude, you got one foot on the peg. You haven't even climbed the tree yet. Let's go take lunch. It's 6 a.m.
Yeah, lunchtime. Yeah.
So I got a question. How long is this Mercury going to keep going?
What's that?
Is that Mercury still running?
Well, it's funny you bring that up. That Mercury has been with me a while. Been with me since I lived in that place that was $200 a month, actually. So it's been with me 5-6 years, something like that. However, the Mercury the reason I say it's funny you bring that up is because I think Friday it's going to hit the road. It's been my backup vehicle, but I got like 2 backups now.
Look at you living the life. 3 vehicles.
Well, no. Don't get me wrong.
His
They're
primary is
like,
so questionable that he needs a
it depends
backup.
on what you define as backup. Might not be much of a backup. I mean, we got the 88 Econoline sitting down there that's making engine noise racket and all this and that. But I mean, it's not like I drive anything super nice. I mean, I got an 07 Grand Caravan. I know I should have.
Oh, dude, you're driving the mommy missile.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
the mommy missile.
Hey, it's not a baby on board van. It's a baby get on board van.
Oh, and how are you not married? Good Lord, you got a sweet minivan and like 4 cars? Good Lord.
Yeah.
Living the life.
Looks you get in those caravans.
That Mercury though, that's like a cast on the show, you know.
It's its own personality.
Yeah, it does. You know, you'll see that thing like we just watched the clip. It drug oil half-mile down the road, you know.
Tranny van, right?
I think they had 2 donuts on the time too.
Yeah.
I think the problem is
why. I mean, that's the other thing is, you know, I mean, you don't always need the nicest, you know. I mean, so many times there's this kind of misconception that you need, if you're going to do an out-of-state hunt, you got to have like this super reliable vehicle and whatnot. And I mean, no kidding around. I mean, we drove like that, and we had this Taurus that I just sold that had 280-some thousand miles on it.
Who did you sell that to? Who desperately needed a car?
I don't know, because it had no power steering. It hadn't had power steering in over a year.
And they were probably like, this thing is nice.
Wow, this is the best car I've ever owned.
They were. I was like, yeah, it's been a great car. I mean, it really has. But I mean, you know, it's one of those things where you got one life to live. Whatever you got to work with. I mean, if you got to
rocket.
If all you got to 99, if all I got to 99, you know, salvage titled Mercury Sable that looks like, you know, it should probably be in a scrapyard. You know, if that's all I got, I'm gonna go hunting and wherever. You know what I mean? I'll take it to Kansas or Wyoming or wherever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care what I'm driving. I mean, obviously, if I'm driving, if I can have something a little bit nicer and whatnot, I will. But
yeah. I drove a 2000 Cavalier 4-door, and this thing looked terrible. I called it Penelope, and I put a Reese hitch on it just so I could put one of those deer racks on it. And that was worth more than the car was.
Well, actually, what people are going to see, and we're going to do a couple little video snippets. The working class Bowhunter vehicle is it's a Ford Festiva, right?
It's a Festiva.
Fiesta.
Yeah.
Ford
Festiva. Fiesta? Is it Fiesta or Festiva? The old boxy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, in ultimate competition for the Prius, or with the Prius.
No, this is an older one.
This is an old one.
This is like
this is like a 90s.
This is like the boxy little 2-doors, right?
Yep.
So we're gonna
pick up your future wife in it. He even knows we're full of it.
Yeah.
Ford Festiva.
Well, the thing is, if you drive, you know, you're an awesome dude, but if you drive a minivan covered in deer blood, it's gonna steer a lot of people away.
I try to keep it. I try to keep it looking, you know, somewhat respectable on the blood level, at least. But,
well, you know what's funny? I just bought a.
I don't want to cut you off, but this is really funny. So what you should do, like, since you got the mommy missile, you know how everybody has those like family stickers? You should get like 5 is it 4 or 5 guys? They're 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because
5, 6 of us. What? Yeah, something like that.
5, 6. Okay, yeah. Get like all just like dudes, just covered on the back. So when you're driving down, people are like, you know, normally you see like, oh, look, it's a wife, husband, and like 4 kids. Like,
and 2 dogs.
Good God, what is this? 5 dudes in a house?
They might start thinking something. You know?
You need to put like 5 dudes in a bow.
We did have the back of the caravans like super dusty. I mean, just caked on from Kansas last year. So we did draw a stick family through his dust. Yeah, and put number 1 mom on it too.
Oh, that is awesome.
Oh, dude, that is.
Oh no, you can get that, and then you can put like world's best uncle on there, just to kind of turn heads. And then when people look at you, you know, you can put your website on there, and people are like, world's best uncle. Oh, it's those guys. Hey, I'll buy their DVDs.
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of where we're going for advertising. And for some reason, nobody's giving us interest. I don't know what it is. I can't tell you.
Oh man, we're a little different vibe than other hunting podcasts.
Yeah, we don't.
Right.
We don't stick to scripts because because we have to write it too and then stick to it.
You
Yeah.
like to drink
No,
anyway.
I'm a big fan of unscripted. Just go with the flow.
We're kind of like freestyle rappers,
Yeah, they'll make it weird, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Everything about freestyle rappers and us is
Completely
oh
opposite.
yeah, no, we're right there with them. We have talent, gold teeth. We can dance. Actually, we
tried it. We tried to
We can
dance.
dance. We can square dance.
I've danced in my deer
I'm not making
stand
any.
before.
I'm not making any promises on my dance moves or anything.
So if you see Jared at
But-
a show, maybe the Illinois or Classic or wherever he happens to be, challenge him to a dance off.
There you go.
No.
Jared, do you keep up with any new dance moves?
Do I?
Yeah.
No, the Macarena. No.
The Macarena.
Okay, will you post a video of you doing the Macarena? Don't say anything, and then we'll just see because we like to view ourselves as people actually listen to us. If you post that and we start seeing all the comments of, oh man, I heard him, they did the Jared challenge to do the Macarena.
Yeah.
We'll just,
You're gonna push all his fans away.
I know.
I don't think I'll be breaking out any of my dance moves. Furthermore, the reason I won't be breaking them out is because I don't think they're going to go mainstream or anything.
You just drink a lot of Yingling.
Yeah. Right. So,
All right, let's see.
but well, guys, I should probably get back to editing here shortly. If you
All
guys,
right. You're gonna wrap it up on us. I see
Yeah,
how it is.
No,
I'm sorry, we
I didn't mean it like that.
He hates us now.
made it weird. He's like,
He's like,
"Good
all right,
Lord."
where are they going with this episode here?
He wanted to
What's
talk
that?
about bow hunting, and now all of a sudden we're talking to the Macarena. Guys, I got a lot of stuff to do.
Well, you guys are talking about all your dance moves, and I don't have any, so I feel like
He's left out.
He felt left out.
Coming up next, the next 4.5 hours. Steve
I'm always
tells you what
feeling left
dance
out.
Well, I think we're gonna see what else we got on here. We're gonna smack you with real quick. I don't know, Steve's.
I think we pretty much got it wrapped up. If people want to find you on online, YouTube, are you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Kick? You on any of that?
Kick.
I don't. We don't have an Instagram.
Yeah, you do.
We've got it. Do we?
Apparently, I've been tagging somebody on Instagram.
Somebody's
Oh,
got
really?
one.
Yeah, it's not.
I
Very...
have never logged into any Instagram, nor have I Twitter. I do know we have a Twitter account because a friend of mine set it up for us.
Somebody's getting
I
fired.
think someone is.
I'm not. We do have a Facebook page. I'm not the best at keeping up with that. Hopefully, in the future, I'll get a little bit more on top of it. That's part of the thing with keeping the company sponsor free. We don't have a whole lot of extra budget for bringing in another individual or two to help. So I end up doing a lot of right now I'm editing 16, 18 hours a day or sometimes 12 hours a day, but not very often less than that.
Well, there's just more
and-
important things to take care of.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say it like that either because
Well, that's
people
true.
feel like they're not important, which they're very important. But if we want to see the next, if we want to get the next videos out kind of in a somewhat timely fashion, which I'm hoping around the end of July for the next ones, which is probably the latest in the whole industry. But if we want to get them out, it's kind of that's where it's at right now. But hopefully in the future, be able to free up my time a little bit and be a little bit better on Facebook. But we do have a Facebook page, and then our website whitetail.adrenaline.com, got that as well. So that's pretty much about it for the social media, I guess, or
Yeah.
ways to find us online.
And,
So.
and if you guys are listening, go buy all these DVDs. Buy every DVD you can.
and every shirt.
and every
everything
shirt.
you can.
This is what this is what keeps it going. I mean, if you like what you see, buy a DVD. It'll keep it going. I promise you, it is entertaining.
Oh, absolutely.
If not, talk to me. I will buy you the second DVD, and then you'll be like, "Oh yeah, Steve, you're totally right. Now I'm going to buy them all on my own." We love what you do, and we appreciate you hanging out with us. I mean, we were pretty stoked. I mean, if we seemed a little nervous, it's because we are. We're like, we don't.
We love you, Jared.
We don't get to talk to people we idolize.
No need to be. Yeah. No need to be. Yeah, right. Yeah. No. Thank you guys for having me on, though, and I appreciate it. It's been a real fun time, and I definitely like to cut loose, just kind of go with the flow.
Hanging out, drinking Yingling.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
I mean, we're hours apart, but we're both drinking the same. We're all drinking.
Oh yeah,
beer.
It's just a good coincidence there.
Yeah.
And then if you're at the Iowa
or
Whitetail
Illinois
Classic next year, we'll bring you a T-shirt if you want one.
Perfect.
He will.
That's
be
awesome. Actually,
just
so you know, they're changing the dates. The Illinois isn't going to happen. I don't think until August, right? And so we may very well be back at that show next year. I'm just not sure.
I hope so, because it's in Bloomington this year, so it'd be cool to see you down there. Because it's an hour and 30 minutes from where we're at right now.
About
so.
that, yeah. You
it's definitely a closer drive for us too.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
We'll definitely bring you a T-shirt, and you can rock that.
You'll have to hang out, and we'll bring you some beverages. So
or come hang out at our houses, because one of us has.
Hey, we got
those.
this little mini fridge. We got this little mini fridge at the booth. So
there you go.
We could probably get you a beer.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, we'll make sure to make a stop at your booth then. So if you guys are going to be at the Illinois Classic, check them out.
Definitely want to stop by and see what's in the fridge.
Yeah, we will.
We might have some mystery drinks in there.
There you go. Now we're talking.
All right,
whiskey.
So Jared, are you going to be back on the show, or are you going to block Kurt's number, or what's the deal?
We'll see, maybe I'll just block him for a day or two.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm calling tomorrow. Hey, buddy. Hey, what's up? What's up,
dude? What's going on? We're going to turn into the crazy ex-girlfriend to show up at your house.
I know you're
Why don't
editing,
you love
but...
me anymore? We dated
Who
for
is
like
this
a day.
dude? Why is he at my house?
Yeah, I found
and
your
why does he have
address.
Illinois plates? How come he came this far?
Like, oh man, these guys. But no, hey, we really appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thanks like that.
So hopefully, once the DVD's out and everything like that, we can circle back around and have you on. Maybe we got some more to talk about, and maybe you can perfect those dance moves.
So
I'll get to working on those right away.
And if there is an increase in DVD prices, it's because we took them away from work and labor had to go up. So sorry, guys, pay it.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
exactly it. So
I had to. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Just looking for the perfect excuse. That DVD is actually $75, cash only. Thank you.
So, all right. Well, we really appreciate you having it on. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. We will see you next week. So why don't you just go shoot your bow until next time. Later.